But we should be good to go. So I'm fired up and I appreciate you being here. Everybody watching, Travis Wapelhorst. We have the director of the National Personal Training Institute of Arizona. And we can get into other territories as well. But right now, Arizona is a big deal. You guys have an amazing school down there. And just in general, what you do at the Institute is huge. And especially with what's going on with this conversion to online and remote training, which we're going to get into in a second, because I believe that's kind of the future of where we're going. But before we get ahead of ourselves, or I should say before I get ahead of myself, let's have you introduce yourself to everybody and give us a little bit of a background of what got you to this point, what you do, and then we can get into where we're headed.
Okay, sounds good, Blaine. My name is Travis Wapelhorst. I'm the director of National PTI, or National Personal Training Institute of Arizona, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and New Mexico. Did I say Nevada? Anyway, those states. So what got me started to where I'm at now was roughly 10 years ago, in kind of the same economy as we have now, back in 08, 09, when I was thinking about at the back of my mind that I wanted to get out of being a sales rep for Coca-Cola, and then the recession hit, and all of a sudden I found myself out of a job, and I wanted to get into something different. So I decided to enroll in a 6-month school, the National Personal Training Institute up in Oregon. 6-month class was 500 hours. I didn't know what to expect. At that point, in my mid-30s, I thought I knew everything. It turns out I didn't know anything. In that 6 months, I learned more than I thought I ever would, and I've been able to apply them to this day. So when I got out of school, I ended up going to 24-hour fitness as a trainer there for about a year. And then I took roughly 35 clients of mine to the studio adjacent to NPTI, Oregon. And then that started my 7.5-year fitness coaching business. After a while, I was asked if I wanted to be a part of NPTI, and I said, of course, because I see, what can happen with these students that get out. They're armed with so much knowledge and so much confidence that there's no way they can fail, and if they do, it's essentially their fault. So I made the leap. I moved down here to Arizona to put the first of a few schools in, and here we are. So we started last October, and hopefully July 6th happens, which is our summer term, and we can start educating students again.
So one of the things that I want to talk about real quick is kind of what you guys do at the school that's a little bit different than just the classic stereotype of a personal trainer, right? Because that's one of the things that I love about what you guys do is there's this stereotype that the personal trainer is just gonna kind of stand next to you with a clipboard and all right, go ahead and do 5 more, and it's kind of disconnected and they're just kind of there. But what you guys do takes it to an entirely new level, not just in the school, but you had alluded to the space next to the school. And I'd love for you to talk about what the purpose of that space is and what you guys are able to use that for as part of the practical before people get out and call themselves a personal trainer.
So what I like to consider our school is we're an education, not a certification. So I think there's a big difference between the two. One is a certification gets your foot in the door, but what do you actually know? You know that you studied well enough to pass a test. That's really all it is. With an education like ours, what it is, it's up in the Portland school anyway. It consisted of theory, which was primarily in the morning. We'd go in, we'd have Eric, who he was our lead instructor, go over a lot of the theory. So anything from kinesiology, biology, anatomy, physiology, etc., nutrition, fitness business. And then primarily in the afternoons, we would take what we learned in the morning or the previous week or the previous weeks and apply that next door in a hands-on setting. So we would team up with each other's students. We would goal set for each other. We would do treatment analysis. We'd make plans for each other. We'd work on, how to interact with a new client, because that can be pretty intimidating for a lot of people. But essentially, after all that education, when you get out, you're extremely confident, and you know, you just know so much about the art of training or fitness coaching, as I like to call it, that you're destined to succeed. So I think with certifications, you read a book, you take a test, now what? You don't have the community that, we create. You don't have the resources that we have to make sure that you go forward in your career. And not only that, but we're all mentors to a lot of these students that get out. So I've got a couple students that just graduated, constantly picking my brain. That's what I want. I want them to succeed. That's why I'm here, because I want to change the landscape of the fitness industry. Too many people don't know what they're doing. If anybody just walks into a box gym like yourself or I, say a big box gym that just requires just the basic of certs, you're going to see what I'm talking about. That's not how the industry is or should be. It's unregulated, and we need the best of the best out there to really make change.
And I love what you said about how it's not a certification, it's an education. And that is huge. And I'm sure there's some people watching this either live or on the replay that may have had an experience with a personal trainer in the past. They sign up at the big box gym. They're like, hey, you get 3 sessions, you get 5 sessions included. And it kind of puts a bad taste in their mouth. And I think, to your point, it's just because they're not experienced and they're kind of regurgitating information. But where the big difference is that it's not that you're being instructed, you're being coached. And you lead on to this really great point that there's an art form just as much as the science to being a good coach, not just giving information. And I love what you guys do at the school of breeding that. And the industry and the landscape is changing a little bit with what's going on with Corona and quarantine. But that being said, you guys are in the forefront with what you're doing to get ahead of it. And I'd love for you to share what you're setting up both in your home and with the school, the online certifications. I mean, we can just go into the future of all this, and what a better person to talk to than you.
Yeah, so we've already changed up things a little bit just to ensure that we're still able to educate those who want to move on to the industry. So, typically our course here is 440 hours hands-on and in-class instruction. What we've done is we created kind of a mini master program. So instead of 440, we're doing 80. So roughly 20% of our curriculum is being taught, which is still more than you're going to get pretty much anywhere else, to be honest. So what we've done is we've gone from a 5-hour day to a 3-hour day instead of a 4-day week, a 3-day week. So what we're doing is we're still showing all the same slides, the same information. We're still going over the pertinent stuff, anatomy, physiology, biology, you name it. We're still teaching all that, including nutrition. But we're doing it via Zoom. It's taken a little getting used to. I'm used to the personal touch. It's weird just staring at myself in the camera. So I find myself darting back and forth from me to whoever's on the screen. I'm trying to stop that and just stare at, who's in the classroom. But, they're still getting the information. The cool thing is that it's more convenient. And obviously we don't have a place where we can conjure it and go over this. But I think a lot of people are enjoying it who didn't think that they would, to be honest with you. It's just the convenience of their home. They can wear what they want. They have access to the fridge. It's only 3 hours a day with the 80-hour program. And then on the weekends, I decided to outfit my garage with a lot of stuff. So I've got a bunch of equipment I got in front of, the mad rush. And I was able to get a squat rack, barbells, plates, kettlebells, you name it, in my garage. So on Saturdays from 11 to noon, we do a practical. So my lead instructor, Aaron, who you met, he comes over. I'm having him cue me through basic movements, doing some posture movement analysis, regressions and progressions in the garage. So even though they don't have the tools in front of them to use, they're watching how we're using them and getting the progressions and regressions and the thing that you normally don't find anywhere else either. So it's working out really well. I can see how going forward this can be an option for all of our schools. In fact, I think there's about 15 of the schools that are doing the entire program virtually right now. I just decided I wanted to do the 80 instead of doing the whole 440 and not having them have any hands-on, because that's really what the school's about, is a hands-on. So hopefully in July, we can kickstart that back up, or at the latest, probably October for our fall term. But that's really what we're known for, is a hands-on piece. But we're trying to bridge that gap and still deliver an excellent education.
Now, what the Institute does is not just in America. You guys have a global reach. And one of the things that kind of brought us together a few years back was not just the passion for golf and for fitness, but this massive compilation of continuing education that you guys have started putting together. I'd love for you to share not only what that database is going to entail, but the reach that it's going to have and your ability to influence the world.
Yeah, so about 2.5 years ago, real quick, this school's been around for over 20 years. And we're known in the communities where we're at, the states that we're at, as the gold standard of personal training education. So having been around for so long and you know, doing what we do, the powers that be decided that we wanted a larger reach, because as of 2.5 years ago, we were only found within a classroom, a brick and mortar classroom. So we decided to reach everybody by going basically global. So we created a platform that would reach everybody. We've got, in fact, the new website's going up, I think within the next 2 weeks. It's going to reach everybody. So we've got a lot of alumni and instructors that have created CEUs. Blaine's one of them, actually. We're super excited about this CEU. I know I am, living in Arizona with as many golfers as we have. I think it's going to be incredible. I haven't seen many CEUs like it, but we're really excited for that. But we've got, on top of Blaine's, we've got another 50 people authoring CEUs right now, and I think there's another 20 that are on deck to be loaded up on the new website. Anywhere from, you know, running CEUs, business CEUs, really anything you can think of is going to be coming up pretty soon. So that's to complement our online certification that we created roughly 2 years ago. So we wanted to be able to still educate people that don't have access to one of our brick and mortar locations. So we created an online certification that anybody can take. It's actually taught by one of us. So if you were to take it, you might get me as your instructor. So you get a personal touch. You get somebody that's going to help you through the cert to make sure you understand it and make sure you pass it. So it's really neat. Really excited about that. The CEUs, obviously, I think are going to be great. They're written by people primarily that went through our school or that are extremely passionate about the topic they want to teach, and they're not just passionate about making money from it, because too many people get into it for the wrong reasons. And that's one of the reasons why I think we quickly became friends. For those who don't know, going through NPTI, you know, we're taught a lot of things, and when I see somebody doing something amazing, it makes me so happy. And I'm a big golf enthusiast, so I'd hit balls at lunch all the time, and I'd watch Blaine work with his clients, and he was the only one that was working on the cause of a bad swing. He wasn't just applying Band-Aids, and that's what I saw everybody doing. And you know, he's working on mobility, you name it. And I was just sitting there going, he gets it. So that's when I had to talk to Blaine. I'm like, hey man, did you happen to go to TPI? Because you're doing TPI type stuff. You're also doing some other stuff that I don't know if TPI teaches or not. I wanted to take it, but I think you were just bringing all these elements into your practice to help people move better, not just swing in a path that your body doesn't really want to do, but create the ability for that body to create a great swing. And it's helped me immensely. I can definitely say that working with you has helped. In fact, I just got back from the range about an hour ago. It's only about 100 degrees and about 100% humidity out, but I made it happen.
So let me ask what seems like an obvious question, but I think especially with what's going on in the world, it's a pretty profound and deep question. Why is fitness important?
Geez, you can go so many different ways with this. Quality of life, I think, is one of the primary things, the driving factors as to why fitness is so important. Without it, I couldn't imagine not having it. One of the things I like to say is you don't get energy, you create it. You create energy by moving. Yes, food nourishes you, but truly to be energized, you have to move. When you start sitting down like I'm doing now for too long, if you don't do something to rewind or undo what you're doing all day, it's a recipe for disaster. And that's definitely the case with golfers. But I mean, that's one of the biggest things. I think when you get to somebody's why, it could be a lot of different reasons. It could be so they can play with their daughter. I've got a 4-year-old daughter. I don't want to, be afraid to get down on the floor with her, the fear of getting back up. Confidence is another thing. And I just want to be around as long as possible. I want to be able to help people for as long as possible. And I want to be there for my family as long as possible. So tons of different directions you can go with that question.
So I think that's pretty deep, and we've hit on a couple of really big points there, which I think in the grand scheme of things, a lot of people think, well, I'm not an athlete, I'm not a top performer, I don't need fitness. But to your point, there's a lot of different reasons why. And the reasons why impact us on a deep emotional human level of we just need to be around, we need to be able to perform, we need to be able to bend, squat, pick up, throw, all these things that go along with it. But almost more importantly, you bring up this profound point that I don't think a lot of people understand, which is they have this belief of, I don't have enough energy to exercise, when really it's the complete inverse. You're not going to have energy unless you exercise. So for those watching who might just be getting started on this journey, they've been a couch potato, they don't have a gym membership or they can't go to the gym, you obviously have a beautiful home gym, you have everything you need, but what would be some of the just basic, simple things that somebody just getting started could do at home, no equipment needed, to kind of just get that momentum going? They can always add from there, but where do they start?
Now's the perfect time to get outside and walk. That's a great start. Get outside, explore. Being inside for too long is not good for anybody. So I think a really great start is getting outside, see some stuff you haven't. I mean, I can't speak for every state, city, but here in Phoenix, there's trails all around us. We're basically in a bowl. So you go any direction, you're going to find a great place to get out and explore that's not going to have too many people, especially now that the hundreds are here. But still, the morning's a great time to get out. That's a great start. There's little tiny steps you can take to build into bigger steps. Once you see that you can do something minute, small, and perfect it, usually people don't stop with that. So in my fitness coaching career, somebody comes in that's deconditioned. They haven't been able to do a push-up in, I don't know, ever. We'll get them to get that one push-up. We're going to build on it. We're going to do 2. That may not be the next day. It could be in 2-3 days. But then that 1 or 2 leads to X amount, and it just snowballs. That's with everything. It's, like squats, sit-ups, planks, which I think not enough people do planks. Should be doing those every day. I don't know about burpees like you. You did how many thousands of burpees did you do?
Too many.
I haven't done that many in my life. And I've done a lot of Spartan races, and I make sure I don't fail stations if I can help it, just so I don't have to do those. But there's a lot of good starting points. I think one of them is just getting out and moving, like taking a walk. If you're that deconditioned, that's the perfect place to begin. Obviously you want to, the problem with the industry is not everybody's designed to squat. Maybe somebody's got some injuries. And maybe, that cookie cutter program that you saw online may not be good for you. So if, in the virtual world, it can still be taught. I'm still online coaching right now, and all I have to do is look at how somebody moves, and I could tell let's start here, or let's not do that yet. Let's work on your foundation. Let's get that core stronger before we build upon it. But I would say for those that are just beginning, try to find some help if you can, or just do things that are within your limits and are within your limits.
I love that. And one of the things you had talked about a little bit earlier in the conversation when Aaron comes over is how on Saturdays, he's helping kind of guide you through progressions and regressions. And we'll get to progressions in a second, because I think, we hear that word a lot, online, magazines, internet, is here's a progression. But while we're talking about it, I'd love for you to explain to people what a regression is and why that might be the place to start.
A regression is the opposite of progression. So let's say a good example would be like a plank. There's a few different varieties, but let's just go arms straight or on your elbows, hands not touching. Too many people do this. Don't do that. Straight. If that is a problem for you, for your lower back, which is normally what it would be, it's okay to regress and put your knees down. There's still tension on your core. Same thing goes with push-ups. If you can't do a push-up, a regression to a push-up is knees down, back still straight, push-up. It's less, you're basically pushing less of your body weight by putting your knees down. So, a lot of people, when they get started, they go to the top. They go progression. They want immediate, they want to immediately get results. And that's a recipe for not getting any, because you're going to be sitting on a couch with ibuprofen. So, like burpees, even you're doing the full ones. There's regressions to burpees that don't make them so terrible. Or in many cases, burpees are bad for your back if you've got a bad back, especially the CrossFit style burpees where you go into the kind of inchworm at the bottom and you hyperextend your back every time you get up. But yeah, regressions are where a lot of people have to start. You just need to know what those are and when it's time to move up.
And that's, I think, even more of a reason why people should seek out somebody who's gone through the NPTI education, is they're going to know where to start. Right. And everybody is different, and you can look at somebody and assess, hey, you're just getting started. You can't squat properly. I'm not going to throw a barbell on your back. Let's learn how to get your butt down and things like that, and all the regressions safely. Whereas if you just go to a big box store, they might just throw you into something that's not physically safe for you to be doing. And so having an expert that can guide you through that and coach you properly for where your needs are is so important. So on the other end of the spectrum, because I know a lot of people watching are in that, like, I want motivation to just get started, but I also have people in my group and in my following who are tour players, college players, elite level athletes, and they're looking for that next little bit of progression. But rather than talking about specific exercises, I'd love to hear more of just general best practices to get more out of your time efficiently, whether it's just time frames of aerobic conditioning or recovery modalities. Like, how do you get the most out of the training without breaking yourself so that you can still go play?
Well, again, you just mentioned it. It depends on the type of athlete you are. I believe everybody's an athlete, but it also depends on what your sport is. Golf's a little different. It's more, for me, it's more about mobility and rotation and core work. And obviously there's some legs in there as well. But I also think it depends on your age as well. I'm 46. Back in my 20s, I was in the gym for 2-3 hours. I wanted to be. I didn't realize that was actually not a good thing, and that was actually impairing my growth muscularly. Because this puts you in that stress adaptation curve where it's just digging a hole. You're not filling it back up. You're not making those gains. You're going the wrong way. So for me, I think a good balanced plan consists of, but obviously, again, go back to your sport, whatever that may be, specific types of workouts. If somebody's a runner, that they live in a aerobic world, you might want to sprinkle in some anaerobic stuff. I like to look at, athletes. For me, I think the best place to be is all around strong and dip your toes in a little bit of everything instead of just one thing. The good examples, CrossFit, they just beat the crap out of each other. I know recovery's kind of in the last few years been a bigger part of CrossFit. It wasn't before. And now more than ever, there's a lot of recovery. There has to be, because they're killing each other for an hour. Now let's stop. And then, a lot of them just go home. But without that recovery, they're going to break down. So it just depends on the sport. I think for me, I don't want to be huge anymore. I want to be mobile. I still want to be strong. But my workouts are typically 4 days a week of strength training. I'll split upper. I do horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical push, vertical pull, and kind of in that fashion, I inject some core work in it. But then I also do every other morning. I've been trying to do a lot of mobility work. I'll just go in my garage, get on the mat, do some variations of yoga. I'll get the bands out, work on some upper cross, lower cross issues that I know you probably talked about. And then a lot of it's just recovery, rest, not necessarily doing what I'm doing now, I'm sitting. So it's not really, to me, it is rest for most people, but for me, this is counterproductive, sitting on my butt all day. So, having a little girl, we walk around the neighborhood. That's active rest to me. Picking up after her, active rest. And remember him, Blaine?
He's getting huge.
Yeah. And he also tears up everything in the house. So every time I come home, when I think I've got everything hidden, he finds something else to destroy. So I'm picking up after him daily, picking up after my daughter daily. So I'm getting some movement in.
Now, you alluded to something earlier that I think is important, because we've talked about, if you're just kind of getting started, we've talked about if you're kind of that elite level athlete, but then there's also, I like to call almost their own demographic, if you will. And there's two of them, and we'll do them separately. But let's start with, because you said you have a daughter. And I think juniors kind of fall into their own category where maybe they're not old enough to be lifting weights, nor should they. They have different speed windows and things like that. And a lot of kids are home right now. So maybe there's opportunity to be fit and exercise with your kid and make it a family type thing. But what are kind of those best practices for the junior athlete or your kid, and how do you make it fun?
Well, I've got an eyesore in my backyard right now, a big old trampoline that wasn't here when you were here last. She's out on that thing pretty much all day. I have to spray it down to keep it cool because it bakes in the sun. But she absolutely loves that. I love that it's working on her coordination, that hand-eye coordination and just moving. It expends a tremendous amount of energy. But also in the gym, she's around myself and my wife, who are constantly trying to better ourselves physically, mentally as well. But she sees us. Well, my wife does yoga. I watch. I do a little bit, but haven't dipped my toe completely in that pool yet. But she'll imitate my wife doing various movements, which is really cute. And she really, it's pretty crazy to see how these kids are just sponges. I'll do some curls out there. I'll do some single leg stuff, and then I look over and she's doing single leg stuff, like single leg RDLs, and she can do a pretty good burpee. That's from me.
So it sounds like when you're working with kids in particular, even if you, the adult, aren't a certified athletic trainer, just leading by example goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And so maybe you as the adult, as the parent, are receiving some kind of coaching from somebody like an NPTI coach, and you're getting that feedback, but you don't need to teach it to your kid. You need to just embody it and example it, and your kid's going to follow.
Yeah. And I love that my wife and I are both very active in that. She is, watching us. And I think because of that, it's being exposed to activity that it's going to be healthier for her in the long run. So, you know, I see different things. I see the parents like ourselves that are active, and then I see those who aren't active at all, that are just either behind their computer doing work or just watching TV or playing video games all the time. And those children oftentimes act out. They don't have an outlet for that energy that they have. And these kids have a tremendous amount of energy. They need to get rid of it. Otherwise, in many cases, it creates behavioral problems.
Speaking of energy to get rid of, not to go on a side tangent, but it's a pet peeve of mine, and I'd love for you to talk about just youth nutrition. And what comes to my mind is every so often, once in a rare blue moon, your daughter gets a special blue treat, and something happens after that. However, now that we're in quarantine worldwide, kids are getting that kind of treat all the time because that's just the easier option. But how important is nutrition to just the well-being of us all in general, but particularly the adolescent?
Oh man, it's huge. Are you talking about the blue icy that she had when you were here?
Absolutely.
She doesn't get those anymore.
I figured after how it kind of triggers some things.
Oh, it doesn't ever. Yeah, I mean, it's extremely important. It sets them up in either negative or a positive light going forward. I mean, they're so young. The nutrition is extremely important for their growth, physically and mentally especially. You start getting them hooked on sugar, those sugar receptors are firing, he's constantly want sugar. You know, pouring sugar down a kid's mouth at an early age, it can lead to so many issues down the road, you know, diabetes, weight gain, and of course, you know, the behavioral issues, which nobody really wants to be exposed to too much. Because I see what happens when, you know, she'll have a chocolate milk and there's really not that much sugar in it, but it's enough to trigger her to just kind of bounce off the wall. So good thing we have that trampoline. But no, nutrition is extremely important, and it can be hard to get them to eat, you know, nutritious things. Our fridge, it's full of vegetables. It always is. There's very little sugar in here. I think I still have a half of a Blue Star donut from 3 days ago that probably not going to get around to. I shared that with her. But, you know, things like snap peas, apples, anything that kind of tastes sweet, that's a complex carb, I'm okay with that completely. It's not going to spike her insulin. It's not going to make her go crazy, and it's good for her. So it's hard in many cases to get them to eat healthy once you've introduced sugar, because now they're like, why would I want to eat this when this tastes so much better? They don't understand the difference. They just know that they prefer that because it makes them feel good and it tastes great. But I think you just have to start with those habits really early on and stick to them, because I've got some relatives that have kids and that's all they do is give them sugar just to make them, you know, in some cases, unfortunately, go away. Here, go over there and play with your tablet. You just have to be interactive. You have to be there, and it's difficult, but it's worth it.
And you make a good point that I think a lot of even well-intentioned parents might not be aware of, which is we know, or at least most of us know, that sugar is bad for us. But what we might not be aware of is that sugar comes in many different forms. And you talk about complex carbohydrates, but what about the well-intentioned parent who is getting like boxed cereals that might have the same effect on blood sugar level as just giving them table sugar and things like that, where they're very similar? I guess, what's a complex carb versus simple carb, and how can you identify it, and what are some ways that you can be checking to make sure that you're not unintentionally providing the wrong foods?
Well, in many cases, if it's processed, if it's boxed, packaged, if it's in a fridge, it's got something in it more likely. Some of it's to preserve. Some of it is meant to create an addict of sugar. But mainly it's like, you know, any fruits and vegetables, you're good. You're totally fine. Bananas. She loves bananas. So that's good. But if it's in a box, there's more than likely going to be sugar in it. And as Blaine was saying, you know, it doesn't, you look at the label, it's not just going to say sugar. It's going to say various words that mean sugar. What am I trying to say? Like, what are some good examples of that? I can't think of any off my top.
Oh, here's one for you. This is my favorite. You get a bag of refined, like white sugar, 100% fat-free.
Oh, sure.
But we both know what happens when you eat excessive sugar. It gets converted into fat. So the claim is very misleading. And I think to your point, there's a lot of things like that. Or hearing, I think a big one right now is like, this product is gluten-free, but it's still like a refined rice something, shoots your blood sugar up. And just because rice is technically gluten-free doesn't mean it's good for you. And then I think my all-time favorite is the big buzzword right now is organic. Not all organic is good, right? You can have organic sugar, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be good for you. But on the note of nutrition, and we'll phase our way back into fitness to go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, because we're talking about energy and clarity of focus and wanting to move around more. What about the senior? We all have older people in our lives, whether it's our parents, our grandparents. I know older people love playing golf and we want to play more golf, but if we don't have the energy to play golf, if we don't have the clarity of focus to make it through a round, if our joints are hurting, our back's hurting, you know, what are some of the things that seniors can do from a nutrition and a fitness perspective to really get that new lease on life?
Where do you begin? My mom has a terrible diet. I see it, especially lately when we've been Skyping, because that's what we do. Oh, Zoom, I guess. And I'm like, what are you eating? It's frozen lasagna. I'm like, ugh, that's terrible. And she lives by herself, so she doesn't really have a reason not to cook for herself, which she's been doing a lot more of lately. She's kind of watched some stuff and got a little educated on how to make healthy meals. But I can't really speak for seniors why. I mean, there's a McDonald's right down the road. I've never seen a line so long. And if any of you are familiar with Arizona, I pretty much live in Sun City, Gulf Mecca of Arizona. And it's a huge retirement home, and all these fast food restaurants, fast food places, they've got, you know, a dozen cars in line at any given time. So part of that might be people wanting to get out of the house. And it's like, let's go grab something to eat, you know, while we're out. But for seniors, I think a lot of it has to do with educating them on nutrition, really. I think it's where it begins. You gotta, if you can read a label and understand what that label's saying, then you can make a better choice. Whereas you go to Safeway around the corner, and we had a pizza last night. We had a frozen pizza, but it was a cauliflower crust, and it was just all vegetables. And you know, in that case, I didn't really look at the label. It's like, all right, cauliflower crust, it's not gonna kill my stomach. So I know that doesn't affect me. There's also something really, really simple that I've told a lot of my clients of any age from the very beginning. And it really is fairly this simple. If you eat something and it makes you tired, it went to fat. It de-energizes you. If you ate something and you feel energized, guess what? It went to muscle. That's where you want it to go. That has helped a lot of people out, just saying that, because if I go and I eat a Big Mac, I'm taking a nap. If I go eat a salad, I feel great. What's that about, I wonder? You know, that's a really simple way of kind of starting somebody off on their journey. If you eat this in the morning, does it make you tired? Yeah, get rid of it. Try this instead. How did that make you feel? Good. Keep it.
And on that note, because I think especially with the older generation who have kind of seen the evolution as the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s came around, the government put out a food pyramid. They gave us recommended eating proportions and all these things. And we were told, eat a lot of carbohydrates, eat a lot of grains, stay away from fats and things like that. And it actually caused a huge spike in heart disease and chronic obesity and things like that. I'd love to hear, you know, we hear that fat makes you fat. Let's dive into that just for a brief moment to dispel some of those myths and talk about what fats might actually be really good for you that we're missing. And if we are going to eat fats, what should we eat? But then also, what can we avoid so that we're not adding toxicity at the cellular level?
Yeah, fats seem to have disappeared out of just about everything. And there's always this perception that it's bad. I mean, it hasn't always been labeled as bad. It's getting some good press now. It's a good thing. I have MCT oil every single morning before I eat anything in my coffee. It energizes the crap out of me. I love it. For those who don't know, MCT is medium chain triglycerides. It's the good fat. It's not a short chain or long chain. It's right in the middle. Our brains love it. It's brain food. Our brains are, what percent fat? I forget. It's a very high amount of fat. So we need that. But yeah, there's a lot of fats out there that aren't good, and there's tons that are good. So my favorite's avocado. Love avocados. We put coconut oil in just about everything. Everything tastes tropic around here. It's just become that way. Because I know it works well for me. I feel great when I do have a healthy amount of fat. But sure, I mean, there's fats you want to stay away from. Bacon grease, probably not good, even though I like bacon. But what are some other examples that you can think of fat-wise that we consume large quantities here in America?
I think the number one that comes to my mind is any fat that was used for the purpose of frying, because at least when I think of fried food, that oil is broken down and becomes toxic, and what happens is you digest it, and now all of the cells in your body are replacing at a molecular level, it's repairing itself using broken toxic particles, and so fried food at least comes to mind for me, and then obviously something like a trans fat, which is just a fake fat in general, manufactured in a lab. But on the note of toxicity, to kind of ease ourselves back into the fitness side, I think at least from personal experience, when I was first kind of really diving into the fitness world, what I would notice is that I'd get, say, like halfway through a workout, and it wasn't even that my body was getting sore or tired, which it was, but I'd feel nauseous and overwhelmed and start sweating out all of these toxic things. And there's almost a detox period that happens. And, we can't outwork a poor diet. And so obviously diet's going to be a massive foundation. But like somebody's just getting into this whole fitness thing, we had talked before, you don't need 2 hours a day. How do you start that process, and how do you build that habit to just keep showing up consistently? Because showing up consistently is way more impactful than just beating yourself down. How do we start that ramp up?
Well, with my clients, I like to meet them where they're at. So if it's somebody who's not working out, we're not going to work out for a half hour the first time. We're going to work out for 10 minutes. Now, what is your capability? I don't want to kill anybody. I want it to be enjoyable. I want them to get, I want there to be some stress involved in the exercise, but I also don't want to, kill them. I don't want them to feel like a failure either. So, but some of my online clients that I have, once I figure out what their needs are, their goals, and how sedentary they are, and where they're at, we just start, 10 minutes. That's it. And for most people, they can do 10 minutes. And maybe we'll go for a week of 10 minutes, and then we'll go up to 20. But it's not, it's not this. It's more like this, because I want them to stay confident. I want them to have milestones, to break some, PRs or some personal records or bests. I want them to see that they're making these small improvements, almost every day, every other day. You can, especially in the beginning, you're going to notice all kinds of things happening. Well, not just, good things. There's going to be some soreness. There always is. but I don't want to blast through that. I want it to just to be a good soreness. I want them to feel good. Ultimately, my goal is to make them feel better before they started. I want them to feel better when I think I said that wrong. I want them to feel better when they're done than how they felt at the beginning. Make any sense? Like my clients back in Portland, they walk through. I wanted them to walk out the door feeling better than they did when they walked in the door. And movement does that. So, I mean, that's why I enjoy it so much. I always feel better. There's never been a bad workout. I've never been like, oh, I wish I didn't do that, ever. And I think once you get the ball rolling, the confidence gets up, they start seeing changes mentally. The mental part's gonna happen pretty quick. You're gonna feel good about yourself. Your body's gonna reward you for moving with that energy. You're gonna feel great. And then, once you get, what I've noticed is about 4 weeks is usually that point to where your odds of continuing have drastically increased. Whereas somebody goes 2 weeks and then they kind of fall off the map for a week, you're going to feel like crud again. So just keep it going. Once you figure out that when you stop for a while, that you start to feel bad again, you go through that enough times, you're not going to stop. You just want it to be constantly feel good. I want to have mental clarity. I want to feel great. I want to wake up feeling, well rested, which also exercise helps with. So there's a myriad of things that movement helps you with, but I think a lot of it is confidence driven when you're like, I've never been able to do this before.
So let's talk about the big elephant in the room that I know a lot of people are thinking about. I might lose some people on this one, but I promise for those watching or watching the replay, this is something that we need to talk about. This is the honest truth. And I want to bring up the hot topic, weight loss, and how, of course, see, the dogs are fired up about weight loss too. I say it, they go crazy. But I think from my experience, hopefully you can still hear me, that weight loss, while it might be a good starting point to get motivated, shouldn't be the only reason why we're doing this. And to provide some context, I've worked with a lot of people that they've lost 100+ pounds because they wanted to lose the weight, but in the long run, it was the other things that kept them on track. They started because of the number, but they continued because of what you're talking about. They were feeling better. They had that mental shift. They started putting good foods in their body, and they started to realize, wow, this is so much better than the way I was living before. So with this being probably the number one thing that you and all the students that are going through NPTI deal with is people say, I want to lose weight. It's probably like 80% of people that come into the fitness world, they want to lose weight. How do you have that difficult conversation with them to give them what they need, or I should say, give them what they want, but also give them what they truly need to sustain it and make this a life transformation so that they're healthy for life, not just the number on the scale?
Well, first off, there's a difference. I always tell my clients there's a difference between weight loss and fat loss. Weight loss is losing muscle, fat, all that. So people that starve themselves, they're losing weight, but they're losing the things that make them, able to function, muscle. So fat loss is what I like to stay with. I like to talk about fat loss because that's really that's the arena we want to be in. I don't want you to be fasting and losing muscle, because muscle is energy. That's our life force. So there's a few different ways I look at it, and I always try to go back to find out the person's why. I think it's very, very important to find out that person's why. And it's not just, I want to lose weight. That's the first why. What's the second one? I want to look better in my clothes. Okay, there's another one. Why do you want to look better in your clothes? When you really dig down and you find out the why they want to make this change, then they realize that it's much deeper than they thought. And oftentimes it's that X factor that's going to help them be more mentally prepared from that moment going forward. I had so many clients that before I didn't always ask why. I find that it's tremendously powerful. But back in the early days when I first started being a fitness coach, I wouldn't ask why. I'm like, oh, you want to lose weight? All right, I know what to do. And then I'd see him for a week, and then, God, where'd you go? Oh, I just kind of lost, I lost confidence. I just kind of, this hurts. It's a lot of excuses. But I think when you find the why and you really get down the reason, then they know it now, because not everybody knows their why. They really don't. They may know the first or second. There's a thing called 7 Layers of Why. I don't know if you know that. I read that book. It's super powerful, and it works. But once you find that out, then I think a big thing that I did even in the beginning is community. Put them around people that are going through the same thing. I have a lot of people that are in the same boat, and I would kind of put them together. I'm like, let's create a community. Let's do a Facebook page. You guys can talk to each other, keep each other accountable, talk. You're feeling like you're about to eat a pint of ice cream, reach out to somebody, call me, and let's talk about it. Let's say why this is going to put you back. This is why this is going to make you feel bad. But I think community is huge. I think finding out the why is huge. And I think just for me, I've always been a lifeline for somebody. If they're not feeling like working out, I'm like, just give me a call. I'm not going to be mean to you. Let's work through this. Why are you not feeling good? Let's just at least do something. If, some people wouldn't want to come in, but I talk them into coming and like, let's just do a stretch session. And usually what that turned into is a workout, because now they're in there, now they're moving, now they're getting energized, now their motivation's back. And now we just got done with the workout and you're thanking me for it. So a lot of it's in the beginning, accountability. It's having somebody there for you, community. What else? There's a lot of ways you can keep somebody on track, but those are some of the ones that I used. And genuinely caring is massive. I always let my clients know I'm always going to be here for you. Not at 2 a.m., but if you ever have any concerns, I'm always here to talk to you. I'm not just the person that's clocking in and clocking out at a big box gym. That's why there's a difference between a personal trainer and a fitness coach. Personal trainers are at box gyms. They're there to collect a check, talk to people. Some of them are good. I'm not saying all of them are bad, but a fitness coach is somebody who's there with you for the entire ride, and not just there for that half hour that you're there. And that's what 95% of trainers do. They're just there for that hour. You pay for that hour, that's all you're getting. With me, I'm here for the long haul. As long as you want to work with me, I'm here. So I think that's a big factor as well. It's finding a right coach. It's, finding that person that's there for your best intentions and not just to collect a paycheck.
No, and I absolutely love that. And, having sat in on some of your classes that you teach over at the school, everybody who comes through that program is just so lucky to have you as a mentor and a leader, and just moving the needle forward on what it means to not just take somebody through a workout like you're saying. It's so much more than that. And that's why I love what NPTI does, is that it's not just here's the information, go regurgitate it. It's about making those connections and being able to relate and being able to share. And I think a lot of people come out of that experience knowing how to emotionally connect with people and discover what that why is. And like you said, there's going to be some days where it's like, okay, you know what? Let's go off our plan a little bit, because this one little step backwards is going to be how we take that next step forwards and modify and change. And when you're just going to a big box gym and they're just following whatever, you don't get that. And it's really special what you guys are doing of teaching that beyond just the science, but that art of how to be a coach and how to connect. So for anybody who's watching, who either wants to find an NPTI certified coach or wants to go through the program and become a coach themselves, how do they get in touch with you? How do they find those resources? How do they learn more about what the school's all about?
There's a few avenues. First one is just npti.org. That's the corporate website. If you're in, say, Louisiana, well, there's not a school in Louisiana. There's not yet. But say you're in New Jersey, You just go to that site, and there's going to be a drop-down box with all the states and the schools and the hours on it, so you can find them there. You'd find Arizona on there, as well as the other schools that I run. But for Arizona, it's NPTIArizona.com specifically. That's where you're going to reach me directly. Otherwise, you can go through the channels of corporate to get to me. But all my information's on that website. Of course, there's social media, Facebook and Instagram are on there as well. But yeah, that's the way you would reach one of the schools or myself.
And if anybody's not in the States, but they still want the education, they want a CEU, you said the new site's coming in about 2 weeks.
Yep.
How do they get to that?
That would be elearning.nationalpti.org. I think they're going to merge into just nationalpti.org when the site comes out. I think it's just going to go into that one instead of e-learning. But yeah, you're going to be able to find all the CEUs on there, the authors. You'll see him on there. We've got memberships on there too that are coming up soon. So that's different topics. So if you're interested in a specific topic, you're going to get an email about that topic daily, and there's going to be some videos on it as well. What else? We do have the online certification, and that's what we consider the level 1. There's also a level 2, which is the online plus a hands-on. And the hands-on is, it's looking like we're going to stick hands-on virtually, kind of like what I'm doing in the garage now. But you're still going to be able to talk to somebody like we're talking right now. Can answer questions immediately, show you how to move with a broomstick, really. I told our students, really all you need is a broomstick, because we can do almost everything with that. Posture, movement analysis, squats, variations, etc. It's really the only tool you need. If you've got some equipment, great, but the level 2 is really cool. It just goes beyond the level 1 with a hands-on piece. So I think in a lot of ways, that's kind of where this industry is heading. I think once we get out of this, people are going to find that this virtual thing is pretty convenient, and you're still going to get a lot of the same information that you would if you were in class. So we'll see what happens.
Any last words or thoughts you want to share with everybody?
That wasn't in the script. You didn't send it to me. I mean, not really. I think what you're learning from Blaine, and here's what I really appreciate about people like Blaine is that, and Blaine didn't tell me to talk good about him, but yeah, he's a golfer. That's where he started, but he's so much more than that. When he came and talked to our class, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting more or less, here's how we get mobility. But I mean, you really peel back that onion to really get to the root cause of either the emotional piece of life or golf, or the physical aspect. And it's people like yourself that really make a difference out there. And that's what we're trying to do in my industry as fitness coaches, be able to do the same sort of things that you do, peel it back, really get sustainable results, and not just a quick, hey, you lost 10 pounds, you're good. It's making life-changing, changes, really, is what we're trying to do. And I know that's what you do.
Awesome. Well, Travis, I can't thank you enough for everybody watching. That was off script. I had no idea, but those were very kind words. You made my day. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I think this is something incredibly important for people to understand and to pursue, that at any age, any walk of life, no matter where you are, we can always take care of ourselves. We can always move the needle forward. And really, we are obligated to do so, because we need to love ourselves to be able to love everybody else around us and lift everybody up, especially in this time of global crisis. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here. We'll post all the links to the resources to get in touch with you. And we'll be talking soon. And it's going to be amazing what you're doing with this whole venture. So thanks for being here, Travis.
See you guys. It's great talking with you.
Bye.